Maybe the last early national signing day that we see, ironically, with the invent of the transfer portal, this might be the last one. Nobody likes it now, so
That's funny because this has been in play for maybe 4 years, would be my guess, 3 to 4 years, this early signing day.
yeah,
And I heard coaches, as typically everybody doesn't like change, squawk about it. But then once it came into play, I heard good things about it because it took care of a lot of commitments that, of course, would linger on until February. And now I'm hearing the same thing as I look online, where there's a lot of people that are coming against it now.
yeah, it's really become quite the headache. Spreading it out. You have one coming up here tomorrow, and then another one in February. And the consensus that I'm hearing is that let's just have one national signing day like we used to have, and have it in January. Kind of compromise.
Split the difference. Yep.
Right, right, and in that way, because of the transfer portal, which is like, I mean, if you're watching, and I know everybody probably is, it's crazy. It is absolutely free agency out there as we speak, and people names keep dropping. I mean, by the minute, and it's just crazy. And it's now become a business. And now that there's two signing days, I think they need to push it back a little bit, because it's like the NFL does. They have their free agency come in March, right, and then they have their draft in April. Two separate periods right there. So you have a chance to get your team together in a much more civilized way than we are doing right now in the college football world.
Well, at least in the NFL, it's structured and self-contained because there's only so many players whose contracts are up that are free agents. Everybody else is under contract. So I don't know what that percentage is, 10%, 15% of the league, maybe.
Much less than it is in college football.
It's 100%. Everybody can be a free agent at any time.
Yeah, yeah. So it's the wild, wild west. And I mean, this affects every college out there, not just Nebraska, what we're talking about. But yeah, it's an unprecedented time in college football, and I really couldn't tell you if it's a good thing or a bad thing, because the traditionalists can think back the old school way to where hey, we're getting a guy here that for 4 years, or if he redshirts, we're going to have him here for 5 years. He's our guy. Nowadays, you don't know. He might be here for a year or two tops, and then be gone. So it's really bizarre, and I don't know if it's good or bad.
I think it's both.
Yeah,
and this is the reason. I think for your average college football fan, and for the health of the sport, I don't think it's good. I don't think it's good to have players playing at 3 or 4 different schools over the course of their careers. I think it's good for college football to have that purity, that allegiance, that loyalty of, when we watch Monday Night Football, we can see that so-and-so 10-year NFL veteran for the Los Angeles Rams played at Nebraska. That's where he played. He was a Nebraska Cornhusker through and through. He didn't play at Nebraska, then Illinois, and then UCLA. And I just think that there's something special about college football that way, and has been for this entire century. And now here we go with basic free agency. But on the flip side, if everybody else is free in this country to work for whomever they want and go to school wherever, I am not going to be the one to say that they should be restricted in any way. Greg, I have to question at times why these guys leave, because when this first exploded about 1.5 years ago, it seemed to be very quarterback driven for the obvious reason. There's only one on the field. So if you don't win the starting job, you're screwed. And if you really want to make a career out of it or want to play, then you got to go somewhere where you can play. So if you're an offensive lineman, and if you can't make the starting 5 and probably 7 get on the field in the rotation, then you're probably just not that good of a player. So it's a little different for quarterbacks because there's only one that plays. So it became a very quarterback driven situation. And in the early months of it, it made sense where you would say, okay, that quarterback's leaving because it's obvious he's stuck behind a star. Now I look at these lists of quarterbacks and I'm like, why is this guy leaving? Why is this guy leaving? Why is it Bo Nix at Auburn? He's the starting quarterback at Auburn. That doesn't seem like such a bad deal.
And no coaching change either, right?
Max Johnson, LSU, starting quarterback. I don't know why these guys are leaving. I don't get it.
Well, okay. You know what? And you got to throw in the NIL in there too. I mean, because you do have better opportunities at a different school.
True.
So yeah, it's become, you know, a profession now. I mean, it's always been a profession. We know that, even though they're called amateur athletes. But now it's become legal, and now they have to report it to Uncle Sam. Is the only difference.